The Alfa Romeo Giulia has been tweaked for the 2020 model year. The company didn't mess with its strengths. Its styling and driving dynamics are largely the same as last year, but the interior does see a few changes that make the Giulia a more rounded, more competitive car. Let's take a look. Let's start with the front end. All of the energy up here is being channeled into the grille. The hood detailing starts out strong at the A-pillar, eases up as it gets to the edges of the grille, and shadows it as it flows onto the lip. The metal accent lining its interior doesn't go across the top. It draws your eye to a point. If this were a continuous piece, we'd instead be honing on the element as a whole. This would halt any momentum the motion would have. Instead, the car prioritizes it as a unit by raising this entire section off from the rest of the body. It all converges to a point that drips on top of the lower clip. They connect, but there's still enough visual separation for the crease to round out. The batch breaks the edge of the grille, and the hood has to protrude out just to meet it. The character line on the side is thickest at the start. It goes to the front door handles but stops just short of the rear ones. The line slopes up the body throughout. It's a subtle incline on its own, but the folding metalwork directly underneath it greatly exaggerates this effect. The line catches most of the light at its heaviest point. This is also where the crease is at its strongest. These two combine to make sort of a half-filleted edge. The crease does most of the heavy lifting on the way back. This element also gives the car forward momentum. On the range-topping quadrifoglio trim, this feature is actually initiated by an intake nestled in the fillet. The Giulia makes the most of its dimensions. The slightly convex windshield pushes the A-pillar back, visually lengthening the hood. Its windshield is more aggressively raked than some of its competitors. It gains almost a fastback profile, though the roofline does push onto the deck. As a result, the third box becomes less defined. The car compensates for this by adding a beefy window kink and flaring the lid up. The shoulder line comes in on the hood and goes straight across the side of the car. Pretty standard stuff so far, but then it strengthens and slopes down as the cabin comes to an end. It banks onto the deck and raises to create the knoller. This flares up further to establish the rear end. The LED strips in the light housings continue the trail initiated by the license plate area. The upper line continues into the lights, kinks down, and floats into the trunk area. The emblem in this section is raised slightly on a pedestal, which is a continuation of the theme set in place by the badge up front. Things are pretty much the same as last year as far as styling goes. The changes for 2020 are contained in the interior. It retains its sporting character, though the cabin is quieter thanks to laminated side windows and additional sound deadening material. The infotainment systems were previously controlled via either a 6.5-inch or 8.8-inch screen that was only controlled with a dial on the center console. For 2020, both systems have been replaced with an 8.8-inch touchscreen. The dial has been retained as a redundant control. Curiously enough, the steering wheel is all new, but the button placement carries over. The shift lever on the previous model looked as if it was enveloped in dollar store plastic. This was a puzzling place to cut corners. It's one of the elements the driver will interact with the most, and it draws attention to itself because it's at the center of everything. Now the material is used as an accent. The lever is wrapped with more aesthetically pleasing leather. There's even a little Italian flag at its base. The center console as a whole has been tweaked. Changes here include higher quality dials and repositioned cup holders. Reviewers complain that drinks placed on them would bump into the climate controls. They lose the retractable cover, but it's a small price to pay for a more pleasant user experience. The Alfa Romeo Giulia is a more complete car heading into 2020 thanks to the update. Whether or not the changes would keep the brand afloat in the US remains to be seen. Thanks for watching. I'd love to hear your suggestions for videos, so if you have any, then feel free to leave them in the comments down below. I make videos about automotive design and history, so if you're interested, then like and subscribe so you won't miss any future videos.